Okay, so just so that we're clear about that, format means appearance. I'm going to just remove this. Just make a note of that because you're going to hear me say the word format a lot. And I don't want you to be confused about it. When we go into other programs such as Microsoft Excel, Microsoft PowerPoint, it all means the same thing, format. Format means appearance. Now, if you go into other computer technology, such as A+ or CCNA, then the word format actually means to clean up or to delete. But when we're dealing with the Microsoft Word program or the Microsoft Office suite of programs, whenever we say format, it means to change the appearance, or it means to look at the appearance. All right, and just to give you, let me see, an example of that. If I come up here to this button right here, notice this button. It's in the Home tab in the font group, and here, this button, Clear All Formatting. It says remove all formatting. In other words, all the appearances. So if you made it bold, if you made it italic, then remove that and just make it a raw text. All right, but just keep that in mind. I'll keep saying formatting. You'll know what it is. All right, another thing that we need to take into account here, as we did before, I was telling you that Microsoft groups together words according to how we type it. So if I go ahead and press this button here, which is the show hide button, which is going to show my non-printing characters, then we can see that clearly this here is considered a group of text. This group of text, of course, is called a paragraph. All right, and this group of text is called a paragraph too. So my point is that Microsoft creates buttons that does things to certain scopes of the document. All right, so let's take a look at our different scopes. Let me just write it down here so that we're clear. So scope, and let me turn off my non-printing characters, and I'll explain what the scope is in a second. So we have paragraphs, and let's just bullet this. We have lines, and we have characters, also known as letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and we have the entire document. So scope is the level at which a button functions. So if I press a button, will it format the entire paragraph, or will it format just one character? All right, so just keep that in mind. Let me show you an example here. For example, if I click within this paragraph and I go and go into the paragraph group, I'm going to click the align right. Notice that the entire paragraph is now aligned to the right. Okay, so let me go to the next one and do the same thing. I'm going to go up to the Home tab, paragraph group, and this time I'm going to click the center button. And notice how the entire paragraph has been centered. All of these buttons, or at least most of them, are paragraph scope buttons, meaning that they affect the entire paragraph without me even having to select it. Okay, now if we go over to the font button, this button only affects a character. So these buttons work on a character by character basis. So if I want to bold this D, if I want to italicize that, if I want to underline, all of these buttons function on a character by character basis. These buttons here function on a paragraph by paragraph basis. All right. And if we go down to our list, Some buttons function on a line-by-line basis. Some buttons function on the entire document. So some buttons don't even function on paragraphs or lines or characters. Some buttons affect the entire document. All right. And it's just not these buttons. If we look at these buttons here, I'm telling you that, or I'm trying to explain to you that these buttons function on a paragraph by paragraph basis. Now, there are other buttons throughout our ribbon that function on a paragraph by paragraph basis. There are also other buttons throughout our ribbon that function on a character by character basis. Okay, same thing with the lines. There are buttons in our ribbon that function on a line by line basis. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So you'll be seeing a lot of that scope. I hope you wrote that down. Make sure you take those notes. Those are not in the notes that I'm going to give you. That's something you kind of have to understand. When I was teaching the boot camp course, my mentor told me that because the boot camp course, we need to learn so much, it's something that students would have to subconsciously understand. We can't really teach that. All right, so it's something subconscious that you would have to understand, that when you press certain buttons, they'll either affect the entire paragraph, if you notice right there, or they'll affect just a singular word or maybe a singular line. Different buttons affect different scopes. Definitely go back, definitely just write that in your notes. This is not a boot camp class, but at the same time, you know, I didn't create the, there's no notes on it for you, not even from me. So textbook notes, there's no textbook talking about scope. Okay, none. All right, so, but I found that a lot of students kind of just need to understand that foundation there. Okay, so some buttons function by paragraph, and some buttons function by lines, and some buttons function on a character by character, and some buttons function on the entire document. Very important when we're coming down the line and we're learning, that you understand that. All right, so let's go back to what we were talking about mainly. Let me hit the Control Z. Let me just Control Z all this stuff back. Control Z. Control Z is your best friend. All right, there's the scope right there. All the buttons function on one of these hierarchies here, either on a paragraph by paragraph, line by line, or character by character. One of those there. All right, so let's just come back up. I'm going to take this out for now, and let's continue our discussion on non-printing characters. All right, so non-printing characters are generally invisible. They don't print. All right, the only way that you can display them is by hitting this show hide button. All right, but generally speaking, they're invisible, and we must choose to display them by going to the ribbon. So let me just make it official and show you how to get there to show your show hide buttons. Okay, so I do, we do, you do. All right, so I'm gonna do it, then we're gonna do it, and then you're gonna do it by yourself. All right, so I'm gonna come up to the home tab, and I'm gonna go over to the paragraph group, and I'm going to click on the show hide button. That's how we display the button. Okay, now if we were in class, I would call on one of you to guide me through to do it. That's the I do, we do. So I'll just do it again for you. How do we show our non-printing characters? How do we display our non-printing characters? Well, step 1, we want to go to the home tab. Step 2, we want to go to the paragraph group. Step 3, we want to click on the show hide button. Very important for you to understand. You're always going to be using the show hide button. There's probably, I would say I use it about 95% of the time. 95% of the time, I need to be seeing where these things are. All right, now there's a shortcut key for displaying your non-printing characters. Instead of going to the Home tab, Paragraph Group, and clicking the Show Hide button, what we would do is hit the Control, Shift, hold those two down, and tap the number 8. All right, and then that'll toggle the non-printing characters on. Let me go ahead and toggle them off. I'm going to hold down Control, I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to tap the number 8. All right, so we're going to take a look at a very simple example here. And we're using simple examples, but don't take these simple examples for granted. Okay, because you're going to come into a time where you're going to be doing some complex work, and you're going to need those you're going to need to see your non-printing characters. Trust me. All right, but this is a simple example so that you can get the understanding of why we're using them. All right, so before we continue, let me come up here. Let's go back to the notes for a second, and let's just take a look at these other non-printing character symbols. So, okay, so we have the paragraph mark. We have the tab mark, indicates indentations by the user. These indentations are 0.5 inches. So here's what the tab mark looks like. We have the space bar mark, which is a dot. We have the soft return mark, and we have the page break mark. So these are probably the most popular. Now there are other ones there. If we keep going down, there's a few other ones, but these ones here, the page break mark, the soft return mark, the space bar mark, the tab mark, and also the paragraph mark, those are the most popular there. Okay, so let's go back here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make some clear mistakes here. You're going to tell that they're mistakes, but like I said, in order for you to understand what's going on, we got to do this very simplistically. So I'm going to click here in front of the this here, and I'm going to include this file too. This is going to be the exercise file. I'm going to include the file so that you guys can also work with me, and at the end of it, you know, I want you to correct the mistakes in it by adjusting the non-printing characters. But let's go ahead and do some stuff in here. I'm going to hit tab. Don't worry about doing this part. I'm just creating this so that we can kind of get an understanding of what's going on here. When you get the exercise file, you're going to have these mistakes automatically in there. And I'm going to want you to correct those mistakes. There's one thing that I need to show you guys before we, during this session. And it's very important. This one right here, the soft return mark, I'm going to show that to you. Indicates the end of a line. Now remember what we were talking about. Each button is attached to one of the scopes, either the line, either the paragraph, either the character. This function is a line scope function, but well, we'll talk about it in a second. Let me just continue here. We'll talk about it. All right, so you know what? We may have to pick this up in the next video.